joining us right now from NBC Sports California, our good friend and yours, and we'll give you all the information on how you can read him, how you can follow him on Twitter, and all that good stuff. It is Scott Bair. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Pretty good, boys. How we doing?
How are we? We're doing good.
Oh man!
Scott, I you know what? I'll just
please
full transparency because I don't want you to get hit by our listeners. So let me just say, I did a little mini rant yesterday because my wife and I went to a dinner, and our waitress had said to us, "How are we doing?" And I said that I said that question always stresses me out because. And I know that nobody's being malicious. You were being very polite, like, hey, how are we doing? Let's get going. I'm coming on as a guest. But I'm way literal. And so when somebody says, how are we doing, it stresses me out because I don't know how you're doing. And I don't want to assume your mood, Scott. Like, you might have had a really bad night or morning. And then if I say we're doing great, well, I now I seem like I'm being rude to you.
So now you're speaking for me.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I don't want to do that.
Well, I'm violating rule number 1 of the KHTK Code of Conduct. It's going to cost me 2 demerits. I'm going to have to stay after school now. I just don't have time for this.
Let's wrap this up in a bow. How are you doing, Scott? Are you doing good?
Speaking only for myself,
Okay.
I'm doing fine.
Okay.
It's a little late for school, but we're all pushing them out there and getting moving. So all good. My daughter's playing a guitar that's shaped like a giraffe. So she's having fun. I'm talking sports. Things could be worse. And, there's training camp so far. I mean, optimism is high. That's what August is for.
Well, then I'm now confident in saying we are doing good because I am also doing good. I know Kyle and Jay are now. We know Scott is.
We're doing well.
We're doing
Superman does good.
Wow, there you go. Scott.
You don't have to say that every time now.
Yes. How about entering training camp? We got to go back because we haven't talked to you in a while. How about entering training camp, sort of, in a hot air balloon? How far away are we, Scott? We talked about this from somebody parachuting into camp. Isn't that really the logical next step?
I mean, who needs parachutes? Like, why not just free dive? You know what I mean? To just go in on some sort of slide and end up directly in the meeting room or directly on the field. I do think Antonio Brown's direct vision was to land on the fields behind the Napa Valley Marriott. It's a little windy. There's a little bit of tight quarters back there, so they ended up landing somewhere else, coming all the way in. It was kind of a made-for-TV moment, and something that I think you'll see a lot of, because for as much as Hard Knocks, and I believe that NFL Films is good at being a fly on the wall, there's just naturally some made-for-TV moments here. Do you know what I mean? Derek Carr plays with his kids every single day, but he definitely plays with his kids. He definitely plays with his kids for a 15-minute stretch on Saturday when there happened to be 2 boom mics and 2 cameras around him. Do you know what I mean? That there's definitely things like that happening up there as now that we're ever so close to the Raiders being officially on Hard Knocks.
Dude, Hard Knocks spoiler alert there that Derek Carr plays with his children.
I know. Ruin it. Why even watch?
Scott, that's a J.J. Watt-esque awareness of where cameras are when you're doing something fantastic. That I like that. That shows for Derek Carr to be aware of when the cameras are on and to make sure they get him playing with his kids and being an all-American guy. I want that kind of awareness on his checkdowns, on his receiver route. So I actually think that's a positive thing on the field.
I like it. He definitely knows what's going on. I just already don't want to hear about the reality of everything that's going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
I will say this is a far stretch from I've never seen the show. This is a far stretch from The Bachelor or Real Housewives or some other things that are on in the background while I'm trying to get work done at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays. Anyway, I will say that they're there. You can't really feel the cameras very much. You can definitely feel the audio guys, because they're carrying boom mics. They're 10 feet long, and it's some dude who's Danny DeVito, with his arms up as high as he possibly can, with this 100-pound microphone stretching over, what seems like Antonio Brown and Hunter Renfrow and Derek Carr at all times. At some points, Like, you just get this feeling you're like, can't talk crap about anybody. How can I say anything mean about Kyle like I do every day? How can I say that without Hard Knocks picking it up? It's pretty difficult. It's stressing me out. I have no stress relief.
Can I step out of the box here with the conversation and talk a little bit about football?
Oh, please.
Why?
All right.
The Raiders spent 3 first-round picks this year, expecting those guys in Cleveland Ferrell, Josh Jacobs, and the third name is eluding me. Oh, my goodness.
Trayvon Mullen.
Trayvon Mullen. How are those guys performing, and do you think they're going to be able to step in right away and contribute the way the Raiders want them to?
Yeah, I would say right now is a time where veterans don't like talking about rookies, right? Because rookies get in, they're in an optimistic period, they're not getting knocked around by anybody who and they get a little too much confidence, right? So the veterans try to, like, tamper that down and put them back in their place. Not here, though, right? Not here. Here it is definitely a feeling, and I don't think that it's just podium speak, that this rookie class in general, these Clemson kids in specific, really have their heads screwed on straight. They're not acting like rookies. And while you can often think about asking for instant impacts from rookies as a fool's errand, right? You are bound to be disappointed, and it's a near impossibility to get what you're looking for. But this group, I mean, I can count 1, 2, 3, I mean, maybe 4, possibly 5 people playing significant roles as rookies and being able to produce. That's a huge number. And I think that goes to kind of what we're talking about, that this is a rookie class that is just not acting like a rookie class. All that character talk that Mike Mayock was spewing after the draft, he may actually have the guys to back that up.
Here was Scott Bair of NBC Sports California. Scott, Jonathan Abram was the name I was looking for. I remember John Lynch talked a little bit about him after the Senior Bowl and how he stepped in right away and was a leader, even though he didn't play in that game. Has that been the case in Oakland? Has he kind of stepped into a leadership role right away?
Yeah, definitely. The anecdotes about John Abram are fantastic. And they're always about him being, like, borderline overzealous, borderline going too far when it comes to seeking out information and trying to do well. Sometimes he's putting the shoulder in somebody's chin strap in a walkthrough, right? John Gruden joked the first day that he had to change his hotel room because John Abram wouldn't stop knocking on his door at odd hours. And so he actually gets paired with all these stories, funny but true. So he gets paired with Trayvon Mullen. That they like to pair rookies together in terms of being roommates in training camp. They have a lot to talk about, integration to NFL life, the whole shebang. Well, so and Trayvon Mullen, great guy, but John Abram raises his hand and says, "I don't want this dude. I want to room with Carl Joseph, right? Because he's a safety. He's a guy we're going to be playing next to." They basically watch film till wee hours of the morning. One problem is so all the rooms have been assigned. So then Trayvon Mullen's like on his own, basically, and then so they just paired him with some random dude, and it's been like a week. And they asked Trayvon Mullen who he's rooming with. He's like, I don't know, some offensive lineman or something like that. Maybe it's from Louisville. And I'm like, Lucius McNeil, he's on your team. Oh yeah. Just him. But yeah, so John Abrams been that guy. He has been really fully committed, immersed, and all these adjectives I'm using to describe, you could easily describe John Gruden the same way, right? I talk a lot about Mayock and Gruden revving at the same RPM and why that works. Abram and Gruden rev at the same RPM, and that's why I believe it's going to work for him right away.
Scott, let's transition from the young guys to the vets. Someone making some positive headlines for once. Vontaze Burfict. Talk about what he's brought to that defense so far early on.
Yeah, so he's worked with Paul Gunther forever. Like, they play golf together with Vontaze got drafted. He was, like, having dinners with Gunther's family. They are as close can be, with still that kind of, player-coach separation when it comes to work. And Vontez Burfict came in. He knew he knew the scheme better than anybody just walking through the door, even with its subtle changes now that Paul Gunther is a Raider. But Vontez has been a guy that has really kind of taken command of that defense. Yesterday, I mean, LaMarcus Joyner makes $11 million per year, right? And he didn't communicate enough on a play that ended up as a completion to tight end Darren Waller. And Vontez let him know it, and not in a mean way or using, derogatory terms, but he's just like, hey, man, you need to talk to me. You're the veteran back there. Why am I the only one talking? He's screaming that loud. Why am I the only one talking? And that is a point that he's trying to knock into this team, and here's the reason why I think it's important, right? This Raiders defense is not the second coming of the Legion of Boom Seahawks, right, with that defensive line with like 10 guys that all had 7 sacks. It's not that. Definitely not, any other big defense you can think of, 85 Bears or whatever the case is. This is a team that cannot get by on raw talent alone. This is a team that's going to have to get by on playing well as a unit, on tackling well, making proper angles, and the Wolfpack mentality, right? To a way that they're going to be serviceable. And that's the kindest term that I can come up with. And I think Vontez knows that. So he is really pushing to bring this unit together as fast as possible. That, I think, is an incredible positive. And while we can look at Vontez's reputation, as sometimes a kill shot artist and getting in trouble for lots of different things and maybe crossing the line, all those things are possible. But when you look at a guy like that, he's only 28, but it sort of feels like he's on his last leg, right? So I think that he's coming into this with a real opportunity to have a career renaissance. This is a one-year prove-it deal for him. He doesn't want it to be the last $3 million that he's ever made, right? All this stuff is fun and well and good with one eyebrow, John Gruden, Chucky doll eyebrow raised for me, right? And it's this. That all sounds good. We all have the hype about him being involved in, scheme knowledge and field general and all those things. Can he play? Right? Can he play? Because it doesn't matter if he gets out there and he's a liability on third down. Then his voice is only heard 2 downs. Right? If he's not good enough against the run, or if teams get them out of packages where he's available, he's less impactful. So while it's great that Burfict is doing all this, the question I was asking is, does he have the juice? Can he still be the player that he used to be, which was darn good? They're violent, but darn good. If he can't do that, a lot of this other stuff doesn't matter.
You can read Scott Bair, NBC Sports California. Also follow him for training camp updates, and then also obviously during the season, we'll get all our Raider info from him. That's Bair, Bair, NBCS. Scott, enjoy your time there in Napa. Enjoy being serenaded by a giraffe guitar, and we will talk to you very, very soon.
Yep, we definitely will.
Take care, buddy. That's Scott Bair.
The Drive.